In our first session, the software-defined vehicle. So I welcome here our presenters. To my left, Professor Dr. Erik Sachs from the Karlsruhe Institute for Technology, Erdinc Yesilkaya from the Bertrandt Group, and Dr. Christian Schyr from AVL Germany. My name is still Wolfgang Fischer. So we are discussing the software-defined vehicle. We named the session, and we heard three different perspectives on the software-defined vehicle. But maybe just to start the question, why is getting along managing the software-defined vehicle, why is that so important for the companies and all the activities in Baden-Württemberg? Maybe I start with Professor Sachs.
Yeah, thank you. So the companies, it's addressing you as well, of course, because nowadays the innovation is in software. We have a large flexibility in software, and other areas of our society are front runners in this area. We have infotainment, we have the individual commercial equipment, and this is now introduced in the vehicle, and this means we have to change our way of thinking and working towards software.
Maybe the two representatives from companies. Mr. Yesilkaya, you pointed out an ecosystem approach for companies. I mean, Bertrandt is really is just helping different companies in the development of technologies. But you said more an ecosystem approach is important. Is this the only way to manage the software-defined vehicle?
It is not the only way, because in general, if you're creative enough, you find maybe also different solutions, maybe in your own company, to go in joint ventures maybe. But it helps more to force and get speed up in the market, who is really fast in the change now, as you can imagine, the last 3 years. And for the question about the software-defined, Tesla is a good example for that, how they started and now where they are. They make some software updates over the year, and so like these topics. I think the vehicle is just more than a hardware platform for the future to come from point A to B. And I agree with Professor Sachs that he say the software is the relevant thing of the future, because there you get more services or solutions, what is needed of the common generation.
Christian Schyr, you as a supplier in the whole automotive sector.
Supplier for engineering and test systems, I would like to extend the well statement of Professor Sachs to say the innovation is not only in software, there's also a strong hardware-related aspect. Just think about in the last 2 years, dramatic increase in performance of electric motors, where we have new materials, we have new production concepts. So I think the combination of course, a strong focus on software, but also to utilize these kind of new capabilities in computing, together with optimized material, with overall optimized vehicle concept to reduce weight, to increase safety, to be sustainable on the environment, to look really for which materials are we using. Are these materials which has to be deposited somewhere deep into the ground, or are the materials we can easily recycle and have an excellent quota of reuse? Just look at the ongoing research in battery materials. Now, what is not only the most performant material combination, but also what is the most sustainable material combination to find the best possible solution also under these aspects. And one big issue now we see since more than 1 year due to Corona is what will be the the globalized world in the next years and next decades be? Yeah? It won't be like before. Look at tourism, look about the mobility needs. So what are the mobility systems which will be in strong demand in the future? Yesterday I read a good article about 60% increase in sales of bikes last year. 60%, that's huge, yeah? I mean, every OEM dreams of one-digit increase, yeah? I mean, 60%, yeah? Just stupid bikes. Well, they're nice electric bikes. We have a strong support. So mobility systems are changing, and so have we as engineers to support not only with software technology, but also support with accompanying processes and methods.
Just one question that comes to my mind. What does that mean for the whole production system, for the way the different actors on the different stages of the value chain, of the supply chain, is it changing as well? Of course, I mean, you pointed out hardware is changing, software is changing, maybe.
Yeah, of course. But in the classic way, I think you don't have to switch your whole company by the process of production, a product or a service. That I think a huge radical change is that not needed. But I agree with my colleague in that case that the content of what you are doing and with what you are facing for the future, I think it's more the content-based thing in that case. But I don't think you have to change all your processes in your company.
Okay. What role does it play, the cooperation between? I mean, Eric Sachs, you is a representative from universities, research institutes. What role does the cooperation between research and the companies play in this case? Do we have to make it faster or more intense?
Yeah, to bridge what you said to what we do. We currently recognize, although of course hardware is improving as well, because this is the platform, this is the chance to integrate software. We recognize that the OEMs especially have skills that do not perfectly fit, and therefore they now invent operating systems. We heard about MBOS and CARIAD, or CSO as former called. They invent operating systems. They want to get back this knowledge, and there we can help because we have an institute that is able to experiment. An OEM has no chance to experiment. He must have success, each year success, and we are flexible. We can go towards one direction and come back and say, no, that's the wrong direction or something. And of course, we have young employees. But again, it's not the young employees that save the world and the Middle Europe industry. It will be the skills of the employees themselves.
Just to grab that point out, it has to be secure. I mean, this is what AVL is very specialized on. Security, safety and of course of testing. I mean, in your project, as you pointed out, you're using artificial intelligence really as a matter of testing and making systems secure. Is that the future way?
Well, I'm a little bit cautious. Of course, AI is now a buzzword in every research agenda. You have to provide some AI. Yeah, this is okay. Yeah. I mean, having some control background, I mean, 30 years ago, I mean, neural networks, nothing new, yeah? Okay, the computers have been, I would say, sub-performant compared to the machinery we have right now, yeah? So AI is a really wide spectrum, how you close it. But I would say it's more a shift from a rule-based approach, where the engineer thinks about and say, okay, what are my rules? And then I test my system, does it follow all these rules, okay, and then I'm done? More to a data-driven approach to say, okay, I'm collecting data in a wide sense of different domains and applications, yeah, and then I put computer science on it. I put the algorithms on it. So I have not only to change or to complement or the algorithms depending which architecture you're using. One actual research is having hybrid approaches. We have some rule-based functions, some AI-based functions, but they have to be accompanied, as we have seen in our project. When you go to a data-driven approach, you have to do a significant change how you handle data. Yeah? And it doesn't come for free. To say, oh, I take AI and then I'm done. Yeah? So you have a lot of additional activities, just to get the data. How do you scope? How do you get training data? How you make sure if you have a certain level, when you just look at, I don't mention the name, you do everyday updates over the air. Are they safe enough? When you do it. So you have to change your whole production cycle of your system, taking into account this kind of, maybe it's not a radical shift, it can be piece by piece, from a rule-based approach and development process, topic V-cycle, to a more agile data-driven process. So it's not only the function, it's not only the system to be developed, it's also the complete ecosystems around it to make that happen in a good, efficient and smart way.
And just a question right to this topic. You mentioned in your presentation the regulations. So we have always discussion about regulations in Europe according data protection and everything. Is this really is this an advantage and disadvantage? Is really the problem for the companies?
From our experience in another huge project in the same funding program, VV Methods, where EVL is responsible for the data protection issues for the test vehicles. It's a big issue, because as soon as you start collaborating and sharing this data, you have to follow very strict rules. And if you do not follow them, you up to a huge fine. So violating data protection is a no-go. And that means we have to spend a significant amount of time and money to make sure that all this regulation is in place and everyone not only following it, but also all the complete machinery is fit for that. So that, let's call it a privacy data leak doesn't just happen by coincidence. So that should never ever happen. And that's a significant amount. And we are still on the learning curve because it's a fairly new regulation. So also the legislation about the details has not been processed through all the level of courts. So if you ask, you ask 2 lawyers, you get 10 opinions. How to handle that? That makes it also for the engineers a little bit tricky to say, okay, is it still, how shall we handle that from a legal point of view? But I think it's settling down. And as we see, that might be also in the near future or far future also an advantage for our European, let's say, approach, that we have a very strict regulation on data protection. But still, it should not be a complete showstopper. So we have to have this fine line of keeping the idea and the principles up in a good technical implementation.
Yeah, I think that the way the interpretation of the regulation is not really the same in all parts of Europe as we experienced. But Eric Sachs wanted to add
I want
something.
to add, the moment you have an automated vehicle at a pedestrian crossing, you have to check the view of the pedestrian. You have to go into the face. Otherwise, you don't see if there's an intention to cross this street. And this is exactly where we currently have laws or regulations that are a huge hurdle. And by the way, Far East doesn't have these rules. So it's sometimes a challenge to do something like that in Middle Europe.
What are your experiences from the Bertrandt point of view?
We have more than 400 test engineers for vehicle data collection worldwide. I think this regulation about the worldwide data exchange, data security, and more than logistical legislation, that makes our work not easy, that's right, but it is also possible to do it in the right way. For example, in some big countries, you are not able to put out the street data to a cloud to make an algorithm analysis in a central base for function development, for example. So that means you have to, for example, as a solution, you have to create a team in that country and make the analysis there. For example, because of the regulation, you couldn't put out that data out of the country, for example, and it's a solution. You have to be creative and flexible in that case.
Just on the perspective of a region like Baden-Württemberg, this we were talking about some more or less like threats or things that are not so positive for innovation. On the other hand, to put it in a little bit of positive way, from the perspective of the region of Baden-Württemberg, what are the advantages, the opportunities to do research and of course to do development and developing products here in the region? Maybe.
Yeah. Still, I think in the automotive industry in Middle Europe, we are on pole. This has to do with our history, this has to do with our education, with our universities, with the skills we have, and the processes we can handle. And honestly, I think that the processes, methods, and tools are at least as important as the technology itself. Maybe you can buy technology somewhere else on Earth, or maybe you can even get that from something like Conrad Electronic. But putting the things together and have the processes for the variants, the versions, a worldwide product, this is something we have to save here and we have to improve, and I think this is our USP.
Yeah, I just can agree with that, and also to put the new players, I would say startups, spin-offs, or an SMA who wants to grow in the world market maybe, or like to make some innovation supported by the land of Baden-Württemberg, for example, with the huge programs we have, a regional land or whole country in Germany, supported by milliards of euros in that case, or billions of euros. I think we also support, when we work together and support them, the pole position of Baden-Württemberg will keep on the future also.
I would like to add some comments on, I think, the very interesting statement of Professor Sachs to say the OEMs or the companies need immediate success. No? That means commercial success. No? And that might be something I think we have to think about twice, because often there is no guarantee for immediate success. No? And then maybe there might be a management decision, okay, let's maybe go for the more commercial short-term solution and not to take too much risk, which might have some financial, let's say, negative impact. But this is also important when we look at my own company I'm working for. Now we have 10,000 people worldwide with 2 billion turnover every year. Now. It's a huge challenge, yeah, to bring the new topics in. And if you compare to the German Mittelstand, especially in Baden-Württemberg, I'm not talking about startups, the traditional, then it's very difficult for them, yeah, to bring in this new technology. Just think about the effort it takes to bring in AI-based concepts in their actual product range. No? So I don't even call it transformation. It's just to be still competitive on the global market using these new technologies. Just think about mobile machinery. There's a lot of in the working group commercial vehicles in cluster e-mobil. Very important business, not only for Baden-Württemberg but for Germany. Yeah? So all these companies, we have to work together, collaborate in common projects. So that also helps these companies to advance, yeah, to keep up to date with this technology and find their way to apply them. No? I think it's not the bigger the better. It's also make it happen for medium and small organizations that they can cope up. And that's, I think it's very important to have this kind of common pre-competitive research, working together with academia, where the people are coming from, yeah, so that they go in the companies and bring those companies to a level so that they are competitive on a global level. No?
So thank you for pointing out the advantages of some network approaches like our cluster electric mobility Southwest. Yeah, I'd like to ask the other two is just working together with companies and research institutes and companies from different branches within some cluster initiatives, network approaches, or smaller ecosystems, as you said. is this more important than it has been, or even important as it always has been? Or it's getting more and more important? Maybe with...
Yeah, on behalf, the situation, it's situation based, I will say. If you only network events and do nothing, it was not successful. If you're in the right network session, like electrocluster software or hybrid or mobility, there are various also categories, of course. Please select the right one to be efficient, and you come out with a solution or a partnership or a new business model. However, what brings you to the success regarding the competitors and so on, then it was the right way. I say the right place, right cluster, and right topic.
But really activities, not only nice
Really
events
activities.
every few weeks. So this project orientation is very
This
important.
is the one thing.
Yeah.
And honestly, in my daily work, or in the daily work of my PhD employees, it's difficult to get data of the companies. They have a lot of hurdles of rules. We have to sign NDAs, and the OEMs are very dominant. Take our rules, otherwise we won't work together with you. And then, of course, an institution like mine, which has a long history, says, no, we can't accept that immediately. So it takes half a year until we get a little data. So we need openness. We need a trustful cooperation that is not only on a meeting level. So I look into your eyes and say, deal, but then the work starts.
Right.
And this is something where I think there's really room for improvement.
If you think this thought a little bit further, this means some sort of changing attitude within the organizations, right?
Yeah, currently, maybe I may add, we have too much fear to make something wrong. There have been some examples. We have compliance, we have monitors in the company, and so everybody says, oops, I don't dare to do that, and ask my boss, and you need a signature of somebody who does not really know what he is signing there. And therefore, hey, we need simplification of that. Not too much processes on that, please.
I mean, it's just what we see from our perspective in the last years. I mean, there has been some kind of Silicon Valley tourism a few years ago. And really we just saw, especially by the larger companies, very much efforts to change the way they work within the company, and of course in some kind of way just cooperating with others, but all these restrictions you said, of course, are still existing. You already said a few minutes ago there's no need to change all your processes and everything, but is it more just to get along with this more software defined world? Is it necessary to have some sort of change of the mindset behind it?
Yeah, that's the right word. That's the hashtag overall, actually. Also in our company and out of the company, I agree, mindset change. Be more smooth, be more trusty to your partner, and afterwards you start thinking or making some projects, then maybe fill in the regulation because someone's coming and proving that, of course, because you have an audit. But maybe not the first time to start the discussion after 6 months. 6 months is a huge time actually for topics of software or digitalization. Mindset change, hashtag.
Okay. How's the change of mindset at AVL? I mean, you already pointed out, I mean, AVL is very active in our cluster, very much in cooperation with Research Institute, as you pointed out, as the KISMEP project or SmartLoad project.
Well, I have the honor to work for a private company where our owner, I think, is really puts a strong focus on research. So we have a significant budget every year for research, which is not usual in our industry or a given at any other company. So we're, by the way, not a startup, founded in 1948. Yeah, so it's a couple of years behind us. Yeah, and I really appreciate this kind of, as I mentioned before, that you do not have to give a highly return of invest next year for anything you do. Yeah, so if you have something and you're convinced, then there is a period where you can also go through the valley of tears, as to say, which you have in any development. So after the first hype, it goes down. Once I had the honor to meet the nowadays CEO of a fairly large Japanese OEM. Talked to him for 5 minutes, and he explained that when he was in charge of developing such a hybrid concept, it was one of many, but he was convinced of that, and it took a while, it took a lot of money, it took a lot of time, yeah, but then it was, looking back now more than 20 years, it was the right decision. Yeah? So to have this long-term perspective and really do not change the plan every day when the investors come and say, hey, where is our money, yeah? Our return of invest? Go through, be honest, never cheat, yeah, but take a controlled risk, yeah, and never follow all experts on the market have one opinion. Just rethink it again. So make your own opinion and make what you're convinced for, and where also your data supports that. Data in a way of conceptual studies and so on. So I really appreciate projects where there's room for also for failure, to say, okay, this out of these 10 concepts, 9 didn't really work well, but they want, that's it, and then just get it through.
I think this was one main part of this Silicon Valley tourism, the failure culture. This was a buzzword a few years ago. But Eric Sachs, after your presentation, we already started discussing it. I think one main point is the field of qualification. Of course, you see a lot of students coming from school to university. Have we of course, we have a lot of different ways to study and hopefully a lot of more people getting more into the software topics. But have we just try to stress it sooner already in school? What are your experiences with your students?
Yeah, the one thing is that as well a university needs to be more flexible. Change the content of the lectures and the laboratories in higher frequency. This is one thing we have to do. But not only the students are enough to save the innovation in the companies. It must be intrinsic. It must come from themselves. And therefore, I'm convinced that a university needs to change their offers for employees that have experience to a certain extent in companies. Even we offer now top management qualifications, so that top management knows what is agile. Everybody talks about that. Consultants talk about that, or they talk about AI. What is that? How does such an algorithm work? How does a neural network work? This might be only a day of qualification, but this is needed, and we as well have to offer that to the companies.
So as a representative of the companies?
Training is also inside the company in combination with the universities or network groups necessary. That means know-how exchange, know-how increasing, employee qualification on top level, like we know Baden-Württemberg as well the last years, with most of patents in the world we have here. As known, and I'm proud about especially the dual system. And that what you mean, Professor Sachs, is a dual system. That means you have experience by work, by project, and you transfer it to the universities. And other hand, the universities have the capability and the need to know and learn new and engage them for the projects, for the companies to work together and learn there. That means this dual system here in Germany, especially in Baden-Württemberg, is really fine, and I hope that will proceed on. Additionally, with maybe more position project-based programs.
And just more flexibility. I think this is the key word for everything. If you, the normal studies, but of course the qualification on the job, AVL. What's your what's the perspective of your company on training and qualification?
Well, as mentioned by Professor Sachs and my colleague here, is I think there are different levels of call it education training, yeah, and they are overlapping now, yeah. So on one side we have highly skilled people, yeah, developing combustion engines, yeah. The business is not, I think, the outlook is not too good, yeah. So I would not recommend my sons to study combustion engineering technology, yeah. Maybe in a different context, yeah. One of my sons likes rockets now, and he tries to fly to Mars maybe in the future or not. I'll see, yeah. So combustion is not a bad process, yeah, in a different context, no? But it's that this education. Will not be you learn something and you do it the rest of your life. Never ever. That will be completely changing. No? We have massive digitalization. A lot of things can be done from home. We do not need a certain infrastructure, which I think is now also a key to success, has been in the past, isn't currently, will it be in the future, to have an excellent infrastructure, machinery to work with. Still we have materials, yeah. I mean, all of my colleagues working in labs, they go to the lab, yeah. In worst case, they work from home office in the lab, yeah. We have successfully done a project in Japan last 6 months, completely remotely, no? Out of travel restriction. It can be done. It takes a little longer. You have to get people used to it. No? So this way of working together, also to educate people remotely. No? That's I think when you look what happens now in homeschooling and lockdown or not, yeah, that will stay. That will change our way how we educate our next generation, how we educate ourselves, educate the older people like me. Yeah, but I think the interesting thing is looking at all different levels. Be interested, be curious. Yeah. Try things out, yeah, and I fully agree with Professor Sachs. We have to give them also the opportunity to try something out. No? And this is not only sitting in front of the computer programming something, is to do something useful with this programming. No? So you always have this kind of hardware-related aspects, be it production, be it development, yeah, be it a human-machine interface. All of these things have to be done in a consistent way of continuously exploring things and saying, oh, I have new capability, that's fine. I learned something new. If some I like more, some I like less, yeah. But the opportunity that I can also apply these things is very important when you gain knowledge, no? Just to read a book or do a webinar, yeah, that's half of the story. To apply it and to have your own little success story, yeah. In the things you acquired with new skills at all levels, no? That's important.
Is it for that reason important to have some? Actually, we are talking about this in detail tomorrow morning. But to have really like publicly funded test sites, as we have, for example, in Karlsruhe, but also in Friedrichshafen and things, really to give the just to set the stage for companies and research institute to try things out, especially as in Karlsruhe, one point of the test field for autonomous driving in Karlsruhe is that it's in the public, so you can just get the users in this process. Is it important to have things like this, or is it more like the companies have to try it out for themselves?
In my opinion, it's very important to have something like this, but not mainly to have a new approach or application or test field is a little bit misleading as well, because we are not testing, because it's too dangerous to test within the public traffic. But we have to come out of our ivory tower. This is very important. We do not work behind a wall. We want to have an exchange with society. Do we do the right things? What about acceptance of what we are doing? What about how does this vehicle drive in an urban environment? And this is the point where I say it's very important to have public, recognized projects, and a lot of work is done in the labs of the university or the companies jointly, hopefully jointly.
Yes. That's right. In Friedrichshafen especially, we discussed about this topic more than 2 and 3 years now.
Okay.
It is also based on a network event. How could we do that? Arbeitsgruppe, like a working group. And that is one directly use case which is also realized. And that's good to see that it's not a theoretical discussion. It is also realized in Friedrichshafen. Now we as an engineer, after testing in labs, now we connect in the whole city or the street along that direction is now connected to the cars, and we also involved in that project, for example. Get some data, and the citizens know that this has happened, and more acceptance for the future of mobility is also given as a secondary aspect as well.
As you mentioned already.
Well, I just want to add some comments what Professor Sachs said. I think the test fields, this is really the interface to the public, no? Where we say, okay, not only to put some sensors, to put some vehicles in, yeah, at a certain level of development, but really to try out what are things we might miss in the overall story. No? Have we done enough to promote the acceptance? Just remember back a long time when e-mobil Baden-Württemberg started with electric mobility. So a lot of people, I don't want to name them now, yeah, thought that the idea to put big batteries and electric motors in vehicles is a bad idea. Yeah? That doesn't work. It's too expensive, never works, it's unsafe or whatever. Yeah? So for this kind of new things, and I'm sure the future will be not that what everyone prognosis, yeah, the future will be always different and surprising. Yeah? Just think 1.5 years back, COVID, what's that? No? But to be curious, to be active, to react fast, yeah, in a good, honest way, I think that's the key to success also in our mobility industry, which has this now big shift to a more data-driven approach, no? To more automation and I mean, we should make a good job to provide something useful to the society, yeah? Yeah. So, and I think there's a lot of room to do for us as engineers now. So, test fields are the first step into a successful industrialization.
Yes.
No?
Yeah, thank you. Just looking at the timer behind the camera, I would like to do a small short round. I would love to go on discussing with you, but we have to look at the time frame. So, the question would be: we already discussed a lot of different aspects, and looking at Baden-Württemberg. So this is the Baden-Württemberg pavilion. We were quite successful in the combustion technology in the automotive sector, as Eric Sachs said. We're very good have a very good market position today in the automotive sector. So, what is, in your opinion, really just to try to sum it up? What's really the 1 or 2 key points to be successful in the upcoming era of a more software-defined automotive industry, or the software-defined vehicles, or as we want to name it? Maybe we start with Professor Sachs. It's
difficult to give an advice. Maybe in short words, don't look back too much. Even if we go through a valley of tears, as you mentioned, in some technology, dare to change. Although, and this is the innovator's dilemma, let's say we have the best products, okay. But now we have to jump, and we have to make statements, and they should not look back, but think about the future. And this is the piece of advice I would like to give.
Thank you.
Yeah, in my words, I would say see the opportunities and look into your strengths. What makes you, or what have made you successful? What could make you successful? Maybe with whom you could more successful. And this is maybe the sentences now I will give to this round.
Christian Schyr.
Well, I would wish that in Baden-Württemberg in the next years there is also a revival of different mobility systems where successful companies here in the area are successful. Just think an example of rail systems. No? Think about shipping, inland shipping. Yeah. Think about the digitalization of construction industry. When you look outside on the roads, on how things are built, I would say there's a lot of improvement. Yeah, using mobility systems to make those domains more efficient. Yeah, so I think we have excellently optimized traditional domain of private cars on high-speed highways, yeah, and there's a lot of other domains where there's a huge room for improvement to bring in smart systems, a lot of IT, yeah, together with smart materials, of course, no? And smart vehicle concepts.
Yeah, perfect. Gentlemen, thank you very much for this very interesting round. As I noted, I'm taking away with me the thought, really have the courage to try something out, trust yourself and your abilities, but also trust your partners in a strong network. So it was a pleasure really to hear your presentations, to discuss with you.